Good morning. Today is the 21st of April 2026. Last Saturday I got the result of my MRI test. It's actually not true. I went to Mahasaragam, not so far away from where I live here in northeastern Thailand, and I had an MRI test done urgently. I needed it urgently, I felt, because I had some issues that just kept getting worse, and the AI suggested that it was progressing in the cancer and probably aggressively progression. The agreement I had with the Galaxy MRI on the 18th of May was changed to be a scan in Mahasaragam. Now, I'm pretty happy based on the result, which I got on Sunday, that I had the MRI done this fast, because it was a mixed bowl of information. Good news and bad news. Unfortunately, the bad news was worse than the good news. But let's take the good news first. The good news was that if we're looking at the trajectory of my prostate size, then it started out in 2023 being 35 centimeters, 35 milliliters big. And in October 25, when I had my second MRI without contrast, it was measured 57 milliliters. So that was not very good. Now, this time, when I did it with the contrast to make sure I had as much information as possible, it was shrunk to 48 milliliters. And I really don't have any idea how I managed to do that. Obviously, I've been looking into it and I've been researching it and I've done a lot of things, but it's getting into such a mixture of things that I really can't separate things anymore. So I don't really know which part made it shrink, but it is at 48. So that was good news. The second good news is that there are still, at almost 3 years down the road, no sign of metastases to lymph node or bones. But in all reality, in order to make sure that that is a reality, then I have to have a PSMA PET scan, but it costs about $2,000, and I just ain't got $2,000. And I cannot ask friends to help me out with that, because a lot of friends have already helped me out a lot. And I can't borrow in the money because I've already borrowed more than I like, considering my financial situation. So that's where we are. I have to settle with the MRI I have. But the MRI is also giving me information I didn't like. And if we're looking at the trajectory there again, I think the tumor on one side of the prostate was about 80% when I started out in 23, and it was about 40% in the other side. Last time in October, I can't remember if I got any information on that, but I did get information that while I started out with a smooth surface on the prostate, then in October 25, it showed bulging. Now, obviously, the prostate has also grown significantly, so that could be because of it. But now I got the information that the prostate had shrunk to 48 milliliters, as I said, but the tumor is now filling out 100% of the prostate in both sides. There are no distinct normal prostate tissue to be seen. It is all cancer. And not just that, it has broken through the shell, and it's broken through with about 1 centimeter, which is a lot. So the fact that I'm right now sitting with a cancer that allegedly had not metastasized to bones or lymph node is almost a miracle, I think. But it also means that the decision to go ADT is no longer mine. It is something that I simply have to do if I do not want to play around and risk having bone metastases. And I am certain that I do not want bone metastases. Given all the stories I hear about people suffering from pain and need radiation specifically on the bones to mitigate these issues, I definitely don't want to go there. But the reality of it is, resistance to treatment is not something that is just drug related, which I thought it was, and which is the reason why I've been postponing things as long as I have. But it turns out that what happens is that cancer will, in its process, in its evolution, it will mutate. And when it mutates predominantly or hopefully in its own mind into something that is more resistant to whatever challenges it is exposed to. And the challenges I've exposing the cancer for during these almost 3 years has been diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, and there's been various supplements and medication in terms of fenbendazole, mebendazole, ivermectin, low-dose naltrexone, and diclofenac. So those are all things that the cancer can become resistant to. And having a cancer that has been in status quo for about 3 years shows that I've not been able to kill it off, but I've also not gone into a resistant state yet. So knowing this, I already before the MRI test decided that the ADT had to be the right thing, because now I have reason to believe that if I do ADT in conjunction with something that has proven to at least mitigate things into a status quo level, then I might have a situation where it's attacked from two sides, and that will reduce the cancer burden. So I'll be doing that for a 6-month burst. But how I'm going to do that, I'm not 100% sure yet. It's obviously it's all come down to economy, because if I had all the money in the world, I knew what I would do. I would do Orgovyx, or Relugolix, as it's also called, which is a tablet or pill you take every day. I do that for 6 months, and then I'm done. This is something that shuts down the testosterone production pretty much right away. And it has the same side effects like most other drugs, but once I stop doing it, then testosterone and everything comes back to normal within like a week. As opposed to the alternative, which is to do Casodex, which is a drug that is also a pill that I take for 5 weeks, 2 weeks before the injection of Lupron or Eligard, depending on what the hospital has. And then I have that in conjunction with that injection for 3 weeks, and the injection lasts for 3 months. The Casodex works by blocking the androgen receptors, so that whatever testosterone is produced is not getting to the cancers, because the androgen receptors are blocked. And this is important because the Eligard or the Lupron works by stimulating the testosterone production, overstimulating it in fact, and to that extent that eventually it just shuts down, it breaks down, and it doesn't produce any testosterone anymore. And that flare-up is a problem when my cancer has been progressed, or the cancer, I do not like to say my, or when the cancer has progressed to the extent they have now. I do not want, and I do not need, that extra flare-up, which could cause metastases to bones and lymph nodes, and then have that much more cancer to battle further downstream. So I need something like Casodex. Casodex is very cheap in India, but it costs a lot of money in Thailand. How much, I do not know. The problem with Lupron and Eligard, from my perspective, is that it is a standard dose. It doesn't take into consideration who you are, how old you are, and what physical state you're in what stage your cancer is at. There's a lot of individual factors it just does not look at. It just pumps you with this injection, which is standard for all people. Works for 3 months. Then I get the second injection, and that works for another 3 months, and then I stop. But by definition, I already stopped once I get the last one. But it takes a month to recover, and there is not a standard formula to say how long, and obviously there can't be, because it is a standard dose, standard drug given to people at widely different stages in their life. If you are a 230-pound guy or a 300-pound guy, and you've got 3 comorbidities, and you've never done exercise in your life, and you have a hard time dieting correctly and all that, you'll get the same dose as I do, and I've got my foot pretty well on everything. So I don't like that. I don't like standard of care kind of treatment there. I'd much rather want the pill that I can take, and then I can adjust according to whatever side effects I might have, whatever results my blood test shows, and so on. And I like the fact that when I'm done, I stop taking the pill, in about a week, I'm back to normal. But that drug cost me $90 if I buy that in India per month treatment. But if I have to take it here in Thailand, I can't say how much really, because EAI is giving me this information. But it allegedly costs between $600 and $3,000 a month. And that ain't gonna happen. I mean, I can't even afford the PSMA PET scan at $2,000, let alone paying $3,000 a month for 6 months for treatment. So that's bad, and really annoys me when I get it up close and personal with the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. But I have to look into what I can do, and I've got a meeting with the oncologist at Sinakarin in Konkan today, in this afternoon, and then I'll have a talk to him about what medicine do they have access to, what can I do, what will it cost, and if everything adds up to my plan, then I'll start doing Casodex. That's my secondary option, but I believe that's probably going to be the one I have to choose, because I can't get my hands on Orgovyx. But then it will be Casodex. We've got a little bird here. Then it'll be Casodex for 2 weeks, starting out the 1st of May and the 15th of May. I'll then be getting on Lupron or Eligard, depending on what hospital I got access to. And then I'll be running a combination of Casodex and one of those two drugs for 3 weeks, so that there is an overlap where the flare-up by Eligard or Lupron will be mitigated by the blockage of androgen receptors by Casodex. And then after those 3 weeks, I'll just be continuing on the Eligard or Lupron. And then after 3 months, we'll take the second injection and then stop. Then I'll be evaluating and see how far back my PSA is bouncing. That's another part of the parcel. People, they get very panicky when they see their PSA doubling time in very short amount of time, and they get a PSA at 3 or 4 and they jump straight on treatments again. I don't want to do that, because the reality of it is, if an MRI shows a significantly smaller tumor after 6 months of treatment, then, but it's still there, let's say it's a 50%, then it's reasonable to believe that I should probably have a PSA expected to be about 50% too, without having any dangers going on. But that's part of the question I have for my oncologist today, which I suspect he can't be answering, because they have a standard way of treating things. But I don't want to jump straight on treatment again once the PSA starts going up, just because it's going up, because logic dictates that if you're not cured, then you'll have a PSA. But logic also dictates that if I've been able to mitigate a tumor of the size of my whole prostate, and I've done that for I don't know how long, because the cancer was not that big when I started out, then I should be able, with a lower cancer burden, to be able to mitigate that on the holistic manner for a certain amount of time again. So that's an interesting part of the parcel. I've seen a lot of my biometrics being plummeting out of the sky lately, and that's because I haven't been doing my exercise as I should predominantly. But UTI has been part of it as well. Prostatitis is another one. So it destroyed my sleep. If I have to go to the loo between 3 and 5 times, spending between 10 and 20 minutes each time, obviously it destroys my night. I don't get the high HIV. I do not get my sleep score up. I do not get my body battery recharged. And I've been looking at that, and if I'm looking back 1 year, then my watch looks at 4-week periods of time. If I'm looking last 4 weeks of time, I've had very few days where I've had energy when I woke up in the morning. No, when I got to sleep in the night, I've just had my energy levels depleted almost every day. But if I'm looking back 1 year, then there are only 2 4-week periods where I've had my energy levels depleted with 3 days straight. Otherwise it's 1 day or 2 days tops. And 3 days is the maximum I've had my battery levels depleted in a row. And that happened twice in a year. And it happened twice, was both when I was in Pattaya doing trail running 15, 20 kilometers and going out partying with my friends till late night. So obviously my battery levels there will be depleted heavily. But that's the only time. And now I haven't done any of that yet the last 4 weeks. The numbers look terrible, absolutely terrible. So if I've got to look at the upside, I'm going to attack this now from 2 angles, and I'm going to document it in detail, what the effects are. I'm going to make extensive blood work every month. I know that is not something people normally do, so I hope that it has a value for people following me. I'm also going to document it here on the channel. I will probably not be doing all 6 months with a video every day, but I will initially be doing a video every day to give you guys a feedback on how I experience it. And then obviously I'll be updating you every month with the blood work, how that comes out, how rapidly is my PSA dropping out of the sky, what impact does it have on my testosterone levels, and how do I experience it. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things going there. And I'll also be trying to see if I can increase my muscle mass despite being on ADT. Everybody talks about that. That is almost impossible. I'll also be following, obviously, how rapidly I'll go anemic, if I will be going anemic, because that has an impact on my ability to run, which is also something I'm going to follow up on. So there's actually a lot of interesting scientific things that I could be looking at during these 6 months, will keep me positively preoccupied. And it's all adding up to strengthening the body from a holistic perspective at the same time as I'm attacking this cancer from a medical perspective. So it's a big mouthful, and it's been taking me a few days to get to this positive attitude towards what I'm going into, because I have to be honest, price-wise, being hit by side effects and the fact that everything is just not going the right way for me lately has destroyed a lot of my mood and my motivation. But I think I'm back in the saddle now. I think I'm back in the saddle. Anyway, I hope this is something that you can use for something, and as always, until next time, stay happy and healthy.